What's up everyone, my name is MrJordilicious and in today's video we'll be looking at a brand new game called Trifox. Trifox is the first game developed by Belgian developers Glowfish Interactive and released on October 13th for Nintendo Switch and October 14th for Xbox and PC. A PlayStation version will be released at a later date. I've played through part of the game and in today's video I'm going to tell you all about my experiences while playing Trifox. So let's figure out what the fox said. Trifox is a modern single-player retro adventure game where you play as a clever fox who is trying to get his beloved TV remote back from the punks who stole it. You play through 4 different worlds in search for the villains. All this while using various unlockable attacks that are divided into 3 classes: Warrior, Mage and Engineer. Each of these classes come with their own set of attacks and weapons, and it's up to the player to find the playstyle that works for them. All attacks can be mixed and matched together, so you can end up with a Warrior-Mage hybrid if you wanted to. The game starts with a small opening world that serves as a tutorial for the game, before arriving in the main hub. During this tutorial you get to learn the basic moves such as walking, jumping and double jumping, and you're introduced to the 3 different classes of the game. Here you also make your first free selection of one of these classes. The other ones can be unlocked later with coins that are found and earned while playing the game. Once the tutorial part is completed, you'll arrive in the main hub of the game. This is where you get to unlock and select new classes and attacks, view the game progress and select the worlds and levels you want to play. The game features 4 different worlds, each with their own style and levels. The game features a classic 3/4 top-down view. Trifox himself is controlled with the WASD keys, while his direction is controlled with the mouse. It might take a minute to get used to controlling the direction with the on-screen crosshairs, and in the heat of the moment I often found myself trying to change direction and shoot a certain way with the movement keys rather than with the mouse. But overall I think it does provide a pretty accurate way of hitting enemies. The camera is pretty stable and moves along with Trifox most of the time. There were moments though when I was moving behind an object and the camera didn't rotate enough to keep Trifox in view. This made it harder to pick up coins or battle enemies, but luckily these moments were sparse. Most of the time when the character moved behind an object such as a tree or a big bush, these objects would just vanish from view. While moving through the levels, there's sometimes small puzzles that need to be solved. Often this involves standing on a button for a certain amount of time, or moving a marble from one location to another. While doing this, you are attacked by a variety of enemies. This is where your different attacks come into play. Are you the more up-close attacker that uses a giant mallet, or do you prefer to attack from a distance with the Gatling gun? I personally used a combination of the different classes as my main build, Gatling gun from the Engineer class and the mallet from the Warrior class. But obviously this is totally up to you and dependent on your own playstyle. In the levels you can also find lots of wooden boxes, vases and more objects that you can destroy. Inside you'll find coins and health. The coins are needed to purchase additional classes and attacks from the main hub. While the attacks get more expensive depending on their tier, I found that playing through a single level would net you enough coins to buy a couple of attacks. That is, if you're the type of player that destroys all boxes along the way. If you don't, you can still get coins from defeating enemies, though it'll take a lot longer to save up for new abilities. The last level of each world features a boss fight, where you'll fight against the main boss of said world. These bosses all have their own unique characteristics and fighting mechanics need to be dealt with accordingly. Defeating this boss opens up a new world to explore and brings you closer again to retrieving your beloved remote. Trifox is definitely a very fun game. The developers claim that they have been inspired by games such as Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter and Ratchet & Clank. And while I felt Trifox was still original enough to not be seen as a clone, you can definitely see the inspiration. The controls might take a little bit to get used to at first, but are easy enough to master rather quickly. The levels offer enough variety to not get repetitive or boring. At certain points you do have to do a little bit of backtracking, but the developers tried to make sure that alternate routes would open up in those cases. The art style of the game also felt refreshing. The characters and objects have a certain voxel-like look to them that I personally really enjoy. Worlds felt fresh and vibrant and are fun to explore. Speaking of vibrant, this game has a feature in its settings that I haven't seen with many games before. Not only can you change the brightness, but also the contrast and even the saturation of the graphics. I personally like the game a little bit more saturated than the default value, and the fact that I was able to select this was pretty cool. If you're into classic third-person action-adventure type games, or you're a fan of anthropomorphic animals, Trifox definitely delivers. The fact that you can create your own playstyle by combining different classes and abilities felt really nice. The levels aren't too big and are perfect for a quick session in between activities, or if you want, you can play through several of them in a row. Don't expect the longevity of the classics that inspired it, but Trifox definitely manages to live up to its expectations. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, please support me by leaving a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and ring that bell to get a notification when my next video goes live. In the meantime, here's some other videos you might enjoy.